Here.
Wheatman.
Here.
Mack.
Here.
LaCroix.
Here.
Mesco.
Here.
Milligan's not, and Parkinson's. Okay.
That's quorum. Let's recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Are there any questions? Okay.
Mesco.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Wheatman.
Aye.
LaCroix.
Aye.
Motion carries. Are there any public comments this evening?
Anybody sign up, Jason?
Not yet. No one wrote their name down.
Okay. Then we'll move on to board reports. Anyone has anything they'd like to share?
This weekend we'll be hosting a Science Olympiad Invitational on the Spec 48 teams, which makes it the biggest one in the state.
Yeah.
48.
48 teams here at GMS. Yeah.
Mhm.
Exciting.
It's organized chaos. It's fun. And that's all day Saturday. It'll be done 5 or 6 o'clock at night probably. So.
There will be shuttle buses from Frederick to here.
Yep. Everybody will be moving, but they all know where they're going.
Allegedly. Something Sue had mentioned, the Lake Division meeting in March. If you're planning on going, let her know so that we can all get signed up.
Is there anyone going to the Scariano Law thing on Saturday?
Anything else?
Oh, I want to let everybody know that I haven't decided yet whether we're having a snow day on Friday. I have gotten,
Wednesday.
yeah,
Wednesday.
well, there have been people that thought maybe I'd call it off now, just so that they can prepare.
Yeah.
So, we'll sort of
Why are
hold
they all
off.
smiling over there like it's all your fault?
And we had a late start today and it went very well. Those are very, very useful meetings, so. And that's all. Everybody's focused on the snow day, so.
That's all right. In that case, we'll move on to the consent agenda. If I could have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, including the addendum to the personnel report.
I'll move.
Second.
Any questions? Okay.
LaCroix.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Mesco.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
The last action item, we need to wait for a union approval for the job description, so that one will come off.
Okay. We'll go ahead and roll through these then. First action item, if I could have a motion to approve the recommendation for the Title I Summer School Coordinator.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Weedman.
Aye.
Mesco.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
LaCroix.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye. Motion carries. If I could have a motion to approve the addition of a temporary EL program assistant at Meadowview through the end of the 2017-18 school year.
So moved. Second.
Any questions?
LaCroix.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Mesco.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Motion carries. If I could have a motion to approve the 2018-2019 school calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? This does line us up with the high school, particularly with the winter break.
Yes.
So.
Mack.
Aye.
LaCroix.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Mesco.
Aye.
Motion carries. If I could have a motion to approve the 2018-2019 board meeting calendar.
Move. Second.
Are there any questions?
This is always subject to change, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we adjust it as we need to, but we set it up beforehand. So.
Strack,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Mesco,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Motion carries. If I could have a motion to approve the addition of a 1.0 FTE district coordinator.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Okay.
Strack,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Mesco,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Motion carries. And lastly, if I could have a motion to approve a 3% stipend for the district webmaster, Leslie McLeod.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
This is what we talked about earlier because it's been such a long time
Yes.
since there's been a bump in the stipend.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Strack,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Mesco,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business. First is the energy report for Meadowview.
I think we'll let Keith and Chris talk about that. I think we lost Keith. There he is. Okay.
Can everybody see that spreadsheet? No, it's okay, good. This was a fairly odd task in terms of how we had to do it because the weather has been kind of up and down. So we put in here consumption, dates, therms used, cost. Below the chart on the bottom are the weather patterns for each of the years by month. What I can tell you is that there's different colored columns, and then there's some rows that have some red lettering and numbering on them. The red lettering and numbering kind of denotes the years or the time of year when the mini boilers would be used the most. From a year-to-year basis, you can see that there has been a dip in therm usage, and then obviously cost, but cost is also based on energy prices as well. There are blue columns in there under usage therms, and we're looking at the 2015-16 year, the 2016-17 year, and I believe that's it, where we have some corrupted data because we had an issue with one of our three-way valves. That kind of, if you take a look at, let's say, June or July or even August, therm usage was up in those blue columns versus previous years. And I could probably let Keith explain the three-way valve issue a little bit better than I can.
Well, it was found in April, the end of April. Johnson Controls was upstairs getting ready for air conditioning season. And Mike, the tech, came to me and said, Keith, that mini boiler is running way too hard for this time of year. I said, well, what's the problem? Because I don't know, let me investigate. So we obviously investigated. It was determined that the three-way valve, the stem was broke off from the operator. So we couldn't see it on the computer in the main office. It just kept doing what it was normally doing, except running wide open. It was then ordered up. It was 6 weeks to get the new valve because it had to be custom built because the building was built in '95. And we had it installed, and as you can see on the last column, our numbers have started to come back down where they should be. So I'd like to do another year or two study just to make sure. I think we're seeing the savings. I don't know if it's exactly as what Annie and Howie said, you know, was the, what was it, 5 years was the payoff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 5
It
years.
might be a little longer than that, but it's definitely doing a great job of keeping the building, when the air conditioning's on, keeping the learning environment very stable, because we do have heat to warm up a room that goes over set point. Again, I'd like a little more time to do a little more collection of data after that corrupted area and see what we come up with in a year or two.
It was put in
15.
like early
14.
2015, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why that first, I mean, the 14-15 column, you can see, like Chris was saying, September, October. From the year previous, you can see that our numbers have gone down because the mini boiler was actually running before we started the big boiler. Then once the three-way valve broke, everything just was running as hard as it could to maintain the 181 degrees in the loop. And normally we don't do that. We do it by a calculated hot water set point. That valve that wasn't controlling anything controls the three-way valve to allow X amount of heat out to the building and obviously return it back. And I apologize. I wish we would have caught it sooner.
Is there any way to, doesn't sound like there's any way that we would have known.
They're really, other than, and that's where I'll go back to, because we'll be coming to you with the service contract for them. I mean, it's just something our guys and me, you know, you don't deal with it every day. You go up the boiler room, you fix what you're gonna fix. You don't really notice that the boiler's running, but you do. But, you know, that's what we hired Johnson for, is to, they do it every day, and he's like, dude, there's something wrong with that boiler. I'm like, there can't be. It's not even a year and a half old, roughly. And like I said, then it came down to the three-way valve, and we got it replaced. And,
How many times were they in and out? Was Johnson here between the time that
they
it broke?
usually are in the fall, early fall. They come in and pre-start the boilers, make sure that we're up and ready to go. Same thing with this. That's why it was end of April. They were in getting the air conditioning ready to get up and go.
Yeah.
Air handlers are done primarily in the fall. After the boilers are set to go, they'll go through the air handlers, change the belts, grease them. Let me know. We've got two over, excuse me, at Frederick's. Instead of burning the motor up, he came to me and said, because I think we could put a set of bearings in that motor because it's starting to make some whining noise. And we put bearings in it, and we didn't put a $3,000 motor in those air handlers. So I mean, it's and I know we're selling that and getting off of this, but it's very important for the size district we're in. I mean, there's a lot of big equipment in this district.
No, I think just because they only come in twice a year to look at all that stuff is probably, you wouldn't have caught it anyways.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Was there opportunity for them to catch it,
But they
No,
missed it.
not really, but I mean, you would hope that it was a good year, nothing had broke up at Meadowview where they would have been into, you know, a heavy repair that we couldn't do as a district. Since the air conditioning project, Meadowview's been very well behaved. We've got very minimal maintenance problems as far as motors and any of that stuff since they put all the new coils in it. They put new belts on everything on it at that. But honestly, it's been pretty well behaved since we did that project. Same as Woodview. Woodview's been well behaved since we put the air conditioning in. But, you know, I apologize that we didn't catch it sooner, but we did catch it. And, like I said, a couple more years data, I think we could show that it's at least paid for itself.
And the good thing is, obviously, we have all of the data that we've collected thus far, so we'll just need to add to it each month, and it's not going to be as.
Right, and the idea is so that when we have to replace another school,
Take
figure
a
out
look
if
to
this
see
is
whether or
a
Is
not-
the right way
worthwhile
to go?
project.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know, that's the thing was, you know, as we talked about it when we put the air conditioning in and we put the smaller boilers in, is we wanted to make sure that in a couple of years we revisited and make sure it was doing what we thought it was going to do.
It's
Yeah.
definitely extending the life of the big boilers that are there.
Right,
I mean, those 3 months that those big boilers aren't running, it's,
3 extra months down the road.
right, you know, so it's definitely extending the life of them.
So Keith, this issue was characterized by high therm usage, right?
Correct.
And now that we're keeping a closer eye on that, a lesson learned is right
Oh, yeah, definitely.
across all the buildings.
I wish we could do it, we can't afford to do it. I would love to put a flow meter in there, but they're ultra expensive, and I've heard they're not totally dependable after about 4 or 5 years in the pipe. You gotta open the system back up, put a new one in. We'll do a better job of keeping an eye on it. And I know from our mechanic, now he's checking all that. You know, he found one, so it's like, let's check. So we've been having him, this year they even verified that the three-way valves were stroking and opening and closing the way they were supposed to.
Does that mean manually going and checking a physical
And we
meter?
go up and watch it do it. And because, I mean, again, I think we'd have had great numbers had it not happened.
yeah, it looks like it just based on what's
Right.
happening, so.
So that's the story on that one. Any other questions?
Just, we were just looking for the follow-up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next is the transportation study.
So the transportation study we've been conducting for quite some time now. With all of the numbers that we put in, with all of the information that we've gathered, we've gone to, you know, even our current vended service to figure out whether or not we've been incorporating all of the figures that we should. I also put in a little bit in there for some possible surprises that might come up, the savings, and this is just on the small buses. At this point in time, the large buses, one, we have a space issue. The large buses take up quite a bit of space. We just don't have that space right now. We've talked to places about leasing land, purchasing land. You know, if this were the direction the district would want to go, and if you'd want to do it properly, it would probably best to have one centralized location with a land purchase and a building for the staff that go there. The one place that actually got back to us and said we have some land for sale, it's for immediate sale. One, it was not necessarily too close to the district. Two, you're looking at several.
Antioch, yeah.
You're looking at several $100,000 just for a land purchase. In the interim, though, with the small bus, we had come up with a solution of putting them at Park Campus. We feel like we have enough space in the parking lot to put them at Park Campus. However, you know, if it's just going to be a short-term project, we've got expenses that we'd run into, like a fence that would need to go out there. That would just be a fence that would go up. It would be temporary, and then it would have to come right back down again. And you know, what do you do with a fence once you get rid of it? You know, another issue is where you house the drivers. If we have them in district in our buildings, they need to be inside the buildings. Park Campus actually has a pretty good space that we could look at to put them in. Once again, though, that's just a temporary solution to what you're looking at is a long-term solution, I should say. Based on all the figures, you can see that the savings aren't necessarily overwhelming, and that's with just the pricing that I know about. Like I said, I put $50,000 in for unknowns, but there's just something in the back of my mind saying, is it just going to be $50,000? And once again, if it's temporary, you're looking at spending further monies down the road, and making those savings less or not turning them into just larger expenses whatsoever. It's something that we should still pursue, though, I would think, if we could find a good deal on land and something that possibly already had a structure in place, some place to house people that we would only have to do minimal work to and we can get a fair price, or even if we can get into a long-term lease that was a fair lease, but it would have to be someplace that would be close, because it doesn't make sense gas-wise if we have something out in Antioch. It doesn't make sense, you know, to just on inclement weather days to have something that's out that far. It's so
basically, the project's not off.
It's not
just that
off.
we need to put this a little on hold.
Yeah.
The land piece is the biggest issue right now, holding us back.
I think, yeah, one centralized location would be.
It's not only just land, it's land that has a building on
In a
it.
building with electricity.
Otherwise, we'd have to build a
Without that,
building.
I
Right.
mean, you're actually, then you gotta expend money to put a building on it.
Right,
And, you know, looking at,
Sewer, water, and everything.
right.
looking at your numbers, it's roughly, just for the small buses, it's roughly about 25,000 a year in cost savings. And that's not including actually adding into having to go out and buy a building if you need to.
Right.
So
And we
if you had
would,
to buy a building, you're talking, okay, so you spend
It's-
$200,000 to
Sure.
$300,000 on a piece of property with a
Much
building,
greater.
it would take you forever to recoup that cost.
Yeah.
now, we would save more money on the large buses, but again, we have to wait a year till we have.
Yeah, large buses, gasoline buses, if we want to get any additional savings, getting a used bus, it would be at least a 1-year wait, because this is the first year, next year coming up would be the first year that they're available. So anybody.
Gasoline buses.
Gasoline buses,
Right.
using gasoline
Well, we
buses.
would need
Gasoline,
dozens of them, not just one.
63.
Oh, yeah. Of the large buses, I think we were at 34 or 33 of the large. 63 total buses,
Right.
including them.
Currently contracted with Durham through when?
We are contracted through the end of this school year. They've given us a proposal. I actually figured we would put it on our next agenda to have that discussion item as well. Yeah, we've been on a 1-year contract with them for the last probably 4 years.
Yeah, it's gone good here.
Yeah.
We are not overly happy with Durham. We haven't been for the entire school year. We've met with them. Monday's ordeal was absolutely unacceptable. To let me know at 6:35 that they want, that they have 30 buses that won't start, that's a problem, you know?
Well,
It wasn't even that cold for this area.
No, and that's
No.
exactly what I said. There have been colder days this year that there was no problem, but there was a problem on Monday.
there was a lot of raised eyebrows. So,
Well, first, I'd like to say that I appreciate all the work that you put into this. I know it's taken a long time and a lot of effort to do this. I think the information is worth it, whether we
Yes.
decide to go with it or not. I
Yep.
think it's important to know what our options look like. And like you said, it's not entirely dead yet.
No.
It's just,
It's trying to keep,
Subject to further review, and who
Finding
knows
the
what
land.
prices, you know,
Right.
maybe even lease prices we were looking at 1 to 2 year old small buses. You know, you generally don't want to go out too far because then it becomes a maintenance problem and your maintenance contract goes up. And if you don't have a maintenance contract, then just your personal maintenance costs significantly increase.
and we
so.
have the same information on the larger buses as we do here for the smaller buses. You visited 3 different school districts to see how they were running their programs.
Yeah, good information,
Yes,
especially,
excellent.
amazingly, when we first started this, I thought our parking lots were plenty big.
Yeah.
And they're not. Buses are very large. So, yeah, that was kind of the first eye-opener right there, that we're gonna have to go a little bit deeper, so.
Do you know what percentage of elementary districts own and operate their own versus contract
Yes.
out?
Big Hollow, Woodland.
Milburn,
Milburn,
Fremont,
Lincolnshire. Trying to think of other ones that,
have they all been doing it for a long time?
yes, yes.
with the exception of Big Hollow.
Big Hollow's the one that just went on a year ago.
It's, you know, I would say it's probably greater than 50% that outsource buses. I would say, I would put
Mhm.
in-house in the probably 40%, 30% range, somewhere around there. I couldn't tell you for certain, but of all the people that we talked to, so it was a much smaller population that actually did their own
Like
busing.
one of those things where it's a grass is always greener.
Yes.
When you have the expense of the contract, you think we can do this, and you do it for a while, and you realize what a pain it is, and then you say, we don't want to be in that business, and you go back, and you go back, and you go back.
Is there any opportunities with any of the other school districts around to consolidate or work together, either through the high school district?
Well, I
Because
did,
we share routes as it is, or, Woodland?
It's tough, obviously, everything's based off of bell schedules. Even with the high school, the routes that we do share or did share, a lot of our buses would show up late for afternoon pickups because they were still running the high school routes. The same thing in the morning, buses would come in 10 minutes late, and that's not necessarily acceptable as well. Because we already work off of a tiered schedule with our buses, and when you put in that third tier, it doesn't take much for a bus to be late. So the greater opportunity actually would be probably with the smaller buses, where you have, a group of children that need to go to a school outside the district. And if we only have 3 on a bus, certainly we could pick up others en route. There'd be a chance for revenue there, but nothing is guaranteed because it would also depend on their contracts with their vendors as well. And if their vendor, if in the contract it said you can't do that, then they wouldn't be allowed to do that with us.
So what, next steps are just basically
I'm still looking for land.
continue to
Yeah.
look at it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alrighty. Any other questions?
So for next year, though, probably we would stay another year with Durham.
Right.
Yeah.
But continue to look for the land throughout. Now that we've got the starting data here, it'll be easy for us to,
Next, new business, discussion of full-day kindergarten possibility. Next school year.
So this is a worksheet that I put together that has a few scenarios on there. And this will be step 1 of the process, because what this process or what this worksheet actually shows is there are 3 levels that we have in, and you're going to want to look at, obviously, the far column to the right. Or actually, I shouldn't say the far column to the right. I should say the third column from the right, where it says total surplus/deficit. That's where we have information about if we add, right now we'd be looking at adding 4.5 kindergarten teachers in order to accommodate the students that would be coming in. We did it in 3 different groupings. We had it where we would add additional program assistants for each of the classes. We had it where we'd maintain the program assistants that we have right now, and those program assistants would have to split between classes. And we also had it where we would take away program assistants that are currently working kindergarten right now, just to see where the costs came in. We put in the evidence-based funding model, and it actually is, I've got 3 scenarios on 3 separate spreadsheets. So one of the keys of the evidence-based model, obviously, is receiving additional monies and to go towards something like, a full-day kindergarten program. To date, we received 0 additional monies. I think you just heard this morning that we might be...
June 30th.
They're looking at potentially June 30th. They've extended it out to June 30th to receive something, which is not a bad thing, because if we actually get it at June 30th, and obviously we're not looking to spend it this year if we're not going to receive it, there is a chance that we won't get it by June 30th, but that'll just give us an additional boost for the following year. But it's still something where they have not yet done the final calculations. There were still a couple of school districts out there that had yet to report attendance. So, and it's based off of every school district. Every school district has to have their information in because it affects the funding of every other school district. So the initial study said that we were in line to receive $360,000. That was off of 2015-16 numbers. In 2016-17, our general state aid went up when it was called general state aid. So naturally, I would assume that our actual additional funding would go down. It's also supposed to be a model where you're supposed to receive additional monies this year, and then the following year you're supposed to receive additional monies on top of that, and then the following year additional monies on top of that. It's supposed to be a 15-year program that brings everybody up. Whether or not it will last 15 years, whether or not it will stay in place, is up to our friends downstate. I did a conservative model here where I took 0, and I said there's 0 over the next 3 years, 4 years. Where you can see that would be the first page that I have that has numbers on it, where you can see what the deficits would be. And obviously, a large deficit is going to be in that first year because we're not bringing in the revenues. That year, it doesn't matter necessarily how much we receive in additional monies, just because of the amount we receive in revenues will not cover, will not cover the tuition fees. I did a conservative estimate with the second year, putting it at $150,000, and I didn't increase it every year. I said $150,000 the first year, and then after that, the state decides not to give us any additional funds, unlike what it's supposed to do, which should go 150, maybe up to 175 to 200 to 225. When you take a look at that model, that's the second page with the figures on it. You can see that your total surplus deficit, depending on which model that you use, obviously is a little bit better than that first sheet. And I should say it actually is that far right column. I apologize. I said it wasn't the far right column. Where you see the difference. So you're looking at, supposing we keep, and I'll always just use the middle scenario, supposing we keep the program assistants that we have now and not hire any additional program assistants, you can see that by the time we get to the end of that 4th year, we'd still have a deficit. The deficit would be about $149,000 a year. So we'd still be losing money, but it wouldn't be the type of money we'd lose without getting any additional revenues. If it actually went up to $300,000 on that third spreadsheet, once again, look at the middle grouping, no program assistance. You can actually see that by the second year, we actually have a little bit of a surplus. So this is almost, and it's difficult to say this, but this is almost dependent on whether or not the state decides and actually goes ahead and gives out the additional revenues that they were talking about.
Well, I think that's exactly what it hinges on. I mean, that's not.
It does.
That's not a hypothetical. That's.
Now.
And that's the problem with waiting until June to give out the money or to tell people what's going on, because we need to make these decisions now.
And
The
there's a
other
little,
issue, yeah, like
little
you saw in
twist.
the memo,
Yeah, April 1st.
was that we have to have something in writing to the ROE before April 1st.
About all-day kindergarten, if we want our money.
Right.
if we do not have something, if we do not pass a resolution, if we do not send that resolution to the ROE, we could have all-day kindergarten, we just won't get credit for having that amount of students. So actually, our general state aid wouldn't go up, or our evidence-based funding wouldn't go up.
So is there a penalty if we tell them we want to start all-day kindergarten by April 1st, and come September, we figure out, or June, we can't figure out it doesn't work? Is there a penalty?
I asked the state that. I said, so this is the issue, and I basically laid it out, and I said, can we do that, and then can we say it's not financially possible because the state didn't come through and give us the money that they promised us? And they said there was no penalty. So obviously the suggestion would be to no matter what. Now, on top of that timing issue, now you're talking about timing with parents. You know, when do we let parents know that it's going to be a full-day kindergarten or no full-day kindergarten? Because parents have to get their
childcare and
yes,
or
everything
pay
set
the
up.
tuition.
Right.
So, as unfortunate as it sounds, especially with everything being pushed back month to month to month, this could almost be seen as a leap of faith move.
And this is coming from Chris.
Yes?
What is the other elephant in the room, the property tax freeze? That nixes the whole plan, right?
That nixes the whole plan as well. I was led to believe that they were going to begin discussing property tax freezes in March again.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
It's you know, it's already been on the table after the January 30th meetings. You're never not going to hear of that, especially in an election year. I've been told in the past it's going to happen, and it doesn't happen. You know, I'm still being told people think it's going to happen, but I can't. I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't say for certain. And it would be nicer to know in March, instead of something happening where all of a sudden they go back after the summer session and in the fall say, oh, by the way, you know, this is going to be the future outlook.
And that freeze would cost us roughly,
Oh, you're looking at $560,000. If it's a 2-year freeze, by year 2, you're looking at $1.12 million.
of lost revenue.
Of lost revenue.
Potential revenue.
Yes.
So we have a dilemma.
I bet.
We want to do what's best for kids, which is all-day
Well,
kindergarten.
I think what we should, personally, I think we should approve a resolution. And then, in the meantime, work on what sort of a schedule we want to use to notify parents as to what the drop dead date is for making the final decision. But we have to give ourselves the option if it's there.
Yeah.
I think so.
And I started off by saying this is part one of a two-part step, because this just incorporates actually adding kindergarten teachers in. Part two, we're having the buildings take a look, because if you add in additional students, now you might need additional specials as well. So this is only showing the kindergarten teachers that obviously it's, you know, it has to deal with scheduling and what's going to be offered. So are there creative ways to make sure that we don't need additional specials based on scheduling, or is it going to be a definite, we're going to need X, we're going to need a Y? So we'll come back again and we'll say these numbers will change slightly. So
On the margins though, but probably nothing that would change the calculus, I would think. Do you have any sense of that?
well, instead of 4.5 FTE, if we had to add 7.5 FTE to accommodate 5 of the buildings, now you're looking at an additional 150,000 each year, and then on top of that, you're looking at increases in salaries and benefits, and so, yeah, there's going to be a bottom line will be, you know, if we get $300,000 by year 3, you know, this shows us that we're going to have a surplus of $17,000. Is that going to be the case? Well, probably not. We're probably going to wind up paying a little bit more. But, you know, if it's something where the amount of expenses are relatively small compared to the benefit that the students get, you know, that's probably something that you would take a look at and say pros outweigh the cons.
And it's not going to be a full PE, I mean, it's going to be pieces.
Yeah, you're looking at, yeah.
Well, it's stepwise, right? At any school, you get to a point where you need to add a step. You're not adding 0.08 FTE, you're adding
Right.
another person.
Mhm.
It's stepwise.
So is it a matter of, is it required? I mean, what
Is all-day
required?
kindergarten required?
No, I mean, what
Is
is
all-day
required?
kindergarten required?
No, I mean, the specials.
That's the study
No,
that they're.
we have to look at the length. I mean, we've talked about, do we need 40 minutes? And most kindergarten kids can't pay attention for that length of time. For a special, yeah.
I'm just wondering what the
So,
current requirements are.
There aren't any, I mean, that isn't required. Since kindergarten is not required,
Okay, so could you just do the bare baseline for now?
well, we
and
also
then
have
add
to,
on?
we have to wait, we have to, figure out how the teachers are gonna get
There,
their plan time. So there's a lot of creative things that we will look at. But yes, that was one of the discussions we had, how much
Yes.
we absolutely have to
Start at the
do.
minimum to get it.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And if the state were to do what it's supposed to do, the funding would come.
Mhm.
I mean, whether it's in the first or second or third year, eventually the funding would be there.
that's the, yes.
And that's the whole point of the evidence-based
Absolutely.
model,
Yes.
That's
so.
the, in its very essence.
Yeah.
But just remember that we'd be putting all of our money into kindergarten.
Yeah, no, I know.
And
It's-
I'm not opposed to that, I'm just saying that's the other pieces of the evidence-based we would not be able to address financially.
Well, yeah, not in the short term.
Okay.
It's, I mean, it's well known though, it's a lot of bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And we end up, I mean, like pretty much all school districts, there are plenty of places where we could improve and spend our money to improve those areas. But it's gonna take a lot of time. I mean, we're not gonna be able to do anything overnight.
No,
Right,
absolutely
and
not.
it will, to show the effects.
And
It's
I-
gonna take years.
The plan for the first year is to add $250 million to the evidence-based funding. I'll probably always refer to it as general state aid. And that's where they came up with the calculations, which gave us the additional 360, but that's going to be lower than anticipated. And then the following year was to add an additional 250 million on top of that. So theoretically, your amount we wouldn't necessarily double, we'd probably, because we'd go up in terms of what our adequacy percentage was. But theoretically, it should be nearly double, but once again, that's all based on
The state funding the model.
state funding.
And what effect does that have on our levy down the road? Would we find ourselves in opportunities to reduce the levy or
This
make
is-
changes that way?
This is separate funding than.
Well, I know that,
Yeah.
but,
In the 15 years from now, if we're at 100% adequacy?
however many years, I mean.
Yeah. It all depends, because you're actually supposed to take the additional money and you're supposed to just spend it on stuff based on what they say. So theoretically, if you were break even right now, 15 years from now, you were supposed to add 15 years worth of the 27 elements and you're supposed to be paying for them, so not necessarily. Because
You're still breaking even.
you're still breaking
15
even
years.
because that money needs to be used to enhance education.
So, and my point in asking that is that the state has to do even more
To get property
as far
taxes.
as funding education in
Yes.
order for us to be able to reduce our
Right.
project
Yes.
levy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do we need to have have the resolution as a discussion point next meeting and then vote on it at the end of March? Or can we go?
Yeah, we've got
we can-
3 meetings to end of February, beginning of March, end of March.
Or we
So
can do
we'll-
the resolution next time.
We can do the resolution. Yeah, I mean, do we want to, well, it doesn't matter anyways, even if we come back and we say we need an additional 4,
No, because
10,
we're going to
20
continue
people.
to talk about it, but
Right.
the resolution could be taken care of.
Yeah, and then if we can have some sort of a timeline for
Right, we're
letting
gonna-
parents know, and
Yep. Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Next is the discussion regarding the committees, board superintendent committees.
So I put a list of what committees we currently have. Allergy committee is a superintendent committee, meets twice a year. I met last night with them, in fact. Policy committee, we meet whenever there are new policies to review or any changes. The HR and communications committee, we have not met this year. We planned on meeting one time and we didn't, I guess, sure we had enough people there, but anyway, talking about our communication, what goes on in, through our website. We are working currently on a document that's sort of a dashboard right now, but that's not from the committee, but we're doing on the side. Our curriculum committee, Tom is on, and along with Amanda and Paul. We meet one time a month. Diversity is the superintendent committee. As you can see, Stephen is there. David has not attended, I don't think, at all this year. Meets one time per month, and then the assessment evaluation as a board committee, and Kathleen and Jason are on that.
So we wanted to kind of talk about whether or not the committees we have are necessary.
Mm-hmm.
If so, is the frequency that they meet good enough? Should be more, should be less? Are we getting out of the committees what we expect to get out of them? As far as whether it's reports to the board as to what the committee's been doing, or what their recommendations for certain things are, or whatever, or just in general, are they productive and thereby, useful?
And what is the purpose? I mean,
And what is the purpose of them? So wanted to have a bit of a general discussion about that, and maybe, if the committees we have are all acceptable, we can continue to have them. And make any tweaks that we need to as far as how they're utilized or whatever. If we want to change committees from superintendent to board or vice versa, we can do that. The difference is the board committees are required to be posted. Superintendent committees are not.
unless there's more than
Unless there's more than a couple of board members there. So if anybody has anything they'd like to comment on as far as the committees go.
I'll comment on the allergy committee. And many of you may not have been on the board when this all happened, but at that time, the allergy committee was monthly meetings, and we had a lot of changes to make. We worked really hard, and we are now down to just twice a year. The issues have been addressed. Every once in a while, something new comes up. I would like to keep that as a superintendent committee and just meeting twice a year, and the parents let me know if they need to meet more frequently. But it solved its goal, it reached its goal, and the purpose of me continuing is just to touch base with those parents, and I think it's done a lot of good. I think they feel much safer, and it's helped us fine-tune what we need to do in our buildings and in the classrooms. Policy meeting, we have to. We have to keep that. We don't have, yeah.
That's something, I guess we don't have to have a committee for it, but we need to have
Right.
some group meet to do that, so that makes a lot of sense. I just lost my train of thought. Went right off the rails.
HR communications,
Yeah.
does that committee meet?
It has not met this year.
This school year or this calendar?
This school year.
Okay.
Personally, I think we just meet. Leslie and does a great job with a web page and the website. That's part of my responsibility as a superintendent, to make sure that we continue to focus on that. As I said, we're working on a new dashboard. She helped us with the diversity committee communications.
To me, I don't know that we need a
Right.
committee for that,
Good, right. I don't personally don't believe we do.
given that it is, I said, for your
Well,
job responsibility anyway.
yeah, we were supposed to have the community, what is it? I forget the name.
Outreach?
Community engagement or community relations
Yeah.
committee.
And that's another option that we can add
So
that
maybe
to
we
it.
can kind of combine some of that. And I don't know about, it seems like diversity definitely deals with something different, but then there's so much overlap with community. But I'm just wondering if 3 committees can be one, but then diversity committee had, I guess, an application process for people to be on it. So then I don't know, I don't want to step on any toes there, so.
Well, I think that's a good point. Making diversity a diversity in community, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. But I,
potentially, but what does that mean?
right, exactly.
So,
The whole diversity topic, I think, is very big. I'm not sure that, I mean, that's two different directions with the community. I think I hear what you're saying, but I'm not sure, and Paul, jump in anytime, or Stephen, with the diversity. I'm not sure that combining that with the community outreach, or whatever we want to call.
Right. Well, then, it would be nice if we just had more cross-committee communication. We've talked about that.
yeah, I mean, maybe that's it. Is,
Well, we can put that back on the board agendas. We used to have our committee.
Yeah, and
Report
I've done
outs.
that for a long time. And even, I guess we could do it, like in a 127 with their committees, even if they have a committee meeting or nothing to report, they say,
Yeah.
so-and-so committee, nothing to report. So we could add those back in. And I don't know, we need to do it at every meeting.
No, but maybe once a month?
Yeah. First meeting of the month.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff from the diversity committee I've reported, but only after we've met,
Right.
right? So usually, like, things like the video, you know, we brought before everybody so that you could all have a look at it and make sure that it was okay for us to use,
Right.
things of that nature. So, and the diversity committee, like Ellen said, the diversity committee, and this was the one that I believe David
Yeah, initiated.
conceptualized and initiated. You know, it definitely deals with a lot of those big conversations, you know, that we're having on diversity and equality and social justice. So I think mentioning the cross-committee communication is critical, because I think both the communication or the community outreach committee and the diversity committee could push on each other for those types of projects, you know.
I feel like they could partner.
Yeah,
on a lot
very
of
much
the
so.
work.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's important. I think that communication is important, and then reporting after, like, for example, we'll have a diversity committee meeting in 2 weeks, next week. We have a next week, and so at the following board meeting, I would report.
Right, and that's actually, I mean, not that the other committees have any real need for it. The one that probably would most would be diversity, but like Kathleen said, partnering with communication too.
For sure.
So if the diversity committee comes up with an idea that they want to get out to the community, or they want to do a video or something like that,
Right.
contact the communication committee and work with them to do that.
I would agree entirely.
Which also helps us keep the message consistent and the look and feel consistent.
Right. Well, the communications, it's community relations.
Yeah.
And then the communications committee is a little bit different. That's, I think Jill was more involved.
Yes.
That's why we haven't had a meeting this year. So, I would like to get the community relations committee up and running. And so I don't know if that can maybe take the place of the HR communications committee, if it's not even meeting.
It's kind of the same idea, a little more focused maybe.
I think that makes sense.
So the purpose, just so I have that when we're continuing looking forward down the line about what it is, what would be the purpose of the community?
To manage.
We have it documented. I
Yeah.
mean, we voted as a board to have it, so I can go find that,
There's
I'd
a
have to
community
find it.
partnership.
yeah,
to me
community
as well.
partnership.
I have it too, yeah.
I just have to find it.
If you could
But you
track it
helped
down.
draft it.
If you could track it down and
We all
email
approved
send it to Ellen so she can email it to all of us. Makes it easier.
I recall that committee is one, we had some people had an idea about a certain juncture going into the green, sort of a green committee, et cetera, or a green venture. And we got to thinking about, okay, suppose I have an idea and I'm a patron in the district, how do I start? I saw it as a sort of a blanket that said, okay, you got an idea for something like the school to do or get involved with, then you go through this committee, then that committee gets as much information as possible and then makes a recommendation to us, should we go further or not. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
And that
how
could be
got
part of
started.
it, yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than somebody calling the superintendent, I got something I want to talk to you about, and then it was a procedure to.
So if, I mean,
Formalize
so
that.
if we make it, I mean, so that's basically incoming information. We could also make it so that committee also handles the outgoing information as well.
Mhm.
And doing that for
And I
I
think
mean, the
in
board and for the
conjunction
diversity
with
committee.
diversity, for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just our progress as a district
Mhm.
on that front.
Well, the members would be then.
It was definitely Mr. Mack
It was,
and me, and I wasn't sure who else might want to join. I don't know if anyone volunteered.
I don't think
Maybe-
I don't think we reached out yet. I think there were some principals that were
Yes.
thinking of,
Yes.
and
Mr. Wolf.
staff, and I know we're looking at students for diversity. I don't know, we probably might want to look at students for this.
Mhm.
And we would meet one time a month?
Yeah.
At least initially.
Yeah, initially, that might change, but yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it as a board committee?
And then I don't know how Tom and everybody feels about this, but there's a lot of the same people going to curriculum and assessment and evaluation. They are different, but it seems like they could be combined. I mentioned that a while ago, but I'm open-minded to whatever works for everybody.
What do you think, Tom?
Well, I've been in situations where somebody said, let's just get a handle on all the tests we give in the district, but that was a time where we didn't have the state telling us what tests to give, and there were so many things as algebra aptitude in those days or whatever, and some buildings gave it and some didn't, and some had their own homemade. And somebody finally wanted to sit in the district office, let's find out what the heck we're doing with all these assessments. But that was a different time. Now it's pretty well formalized. Just about every district will be giving the same tests, I think, and same assessments. I think it's a good place to filter out what exactly we would need to tell everyone about, so they aren't just inundated with all kinds of data. The old saying, we have all kinds of data, and we're drowning in data and thirsting for information. But as far as the curriculum goes, it makes sense to me the two of them would march together. But if we're sitting down talking about curriculum, I always bring up testing and what we're doing to prepare for it, and what's the teachers' reactions to how this, do they know how we did? What's their initial reaction? I always ask questions like that.
And also, calendar-wise, cuts down on the number of individuals.
But another thing I mentioned about, Elle and I were talking, went back today about, is this a superintendent's committee or is this a board committee? I look upon committees as, I get 7 people on the board. I don't have the time to get all the information on valves and piping and testing and school buses and whatever, so it'd be nice if I could have 2 or 3 people that made it a few things that they concentrated on, and then came back to the board and said, you guys ought to know more about this. And then tell us what the things are in a Cliff's Notes version, and then if we think we want to really dig into it, then we'll do it.
Finance committee?
Yeah. Well, in that respect, I see it as a board committee, at least that particular one.
Yeah, I mean,
Any takers? Jason?
that one's
I'm waiting
currently,
for a finance
Who wants
committee
to
that I
start a
don't think is
finance
ever gonna get off the
committee?
ground.
We'll get there.
Yeah. When, in July?
Meet with Chris?
Whoa! You deserve that one.
I do.
July
It's
32nd.
more of a, obviously the big thing is the solar project, and it's more of a, okay, one, we don't have the bid out yet, so we don't know the exact pricing. So we don't know how much money we actually do need to borrow. 2, they keep changing the money that's gonna come in and the time structure, so we don't know how to set it up. And if we have one, and we say this is how we wanna do it, and then the numbers come back differently, then we basically go back to the drawing board. So it's, I know I've been saying I want it, and I want it quickly, and I do have a time frame for how long it's actually gonna take from start to finish. Shouldn't take more than 45 days, from beginning to end to actually have something in place and up and running and money borrowed. But until we absolutely positively know what it's gonna be, I mean, is it a waste of time, or is it something that we just wanna dive into anyways? I mean, I guess I should ask the committee members.
Well, I think maybe with the changes of in the future that it might not be a bad idea to bring it back up so that we can work with the change and go forward from there.
Okay, so I have a base plan in place and then just from there, okay. Friday night, this Friday?
What are you on, a short timeline?
So we've got Jason and Jim and Steven, you wanted to be part of that too, right?
Which one are we talking about?
The finance for the solar, was that, did you say you wanted to?
Yeah, well, I mean, we could have an ad hoc committee that's like special projects committee.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this would fall under that. I don't think it needs to be a finance
you can
committee because
do
we
it.
don't
I think
really.
you're right, yeah.
We get plenty of information from you
Yeah.
during board meetings and
Good.
stuff that I don't know if we need to have a specific finance committee. We can if people would like to, but
And it's a board committee, so we can post it and even try to get people involved.
Yeah.
You know, really try to get people involved in some of the decisions.
But I think a special projects committee would be fine, and I think the solar project is a
Perfect.
good first endeavor for that.
I agree with that. It sounds less cool, but we'll go with that.
We
So
could
what I'm
call it the
hearing-
super secret project committee or something.
I'm hearing I'm a finance committee of one over here because,
Maybe we get the solar panels to communicate with the car in space now.
That'd be awesome.
So did I
Listening on
hear
the
we're
radio.
doing,
Closely, you can hear them.
are we combining curriculum and assessment evaluation?
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay.
I think that'd be.
Sure.
Okay.
And then just not to lose sight of the evaluation piece. That's where just evaluating the impact of the decisions that we're making, and that's,
Well, it's all a piece of the
Yeah.
whole, so that makes sense to
yeah, and that's why it's good it's a board.
consider all that at the same time.
See, and I can see in the curriculum, if it appears that the assessment end of it is getting too burdensome during certain times of the year, you could say, okay, let's take two people and have them be sort of a side project is for them to really investigate this aspect of testing and measurement and report back to us in 6 weeks what you found out, because we don't want to spend all the time on the testing or whatever. Because testing comes and goes. I mean, you have all the tests and then you don't have the tests, and then you're looking at different things different times of the year.
Well, it's how do you use the information?
Yeah.
You know, so it's not a waste of time.
Okay. Does that help, I hope?
Mhm.
Okay.
It does.
Good.
I've got to, I'll look at my chicken scratch and we'll,
Any other questions about that then?
As far as finance goes, I think it'd be good to have somebody looking at finances as we have a transition between two people.
Oh, yeah, I
one
think
leaving
we'll,
and one coming in.
yeah.
We need more than two people working on that for the time being, at least.
but that would be a special
That
project
can be
too.
Yeah.
considered a special
Yeah.
That
project
would be
as well.
transition,
The
right.
there's a, yeah, the transition.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay. Next up, first look at board policies. It's quite a healthy list there. If anyone
Yes,
has any
indeed.
questions about any particular policies.
Why we sent them out
that's
way
why I sent
early.
them out.
Sorry I missed that meeting.
Oh, it was a barn burner.
I can tell.
So if no one has any particular questions about any particular policy, then we can,
I don't have a
most of them were.
particular question. I'm just wondering about the process. Are they on this agenda right now because they've been through committee
Yes.
Yeah,
and they've been marked up?
yeah.
That's what we saw. Okay.
Yeah, I
And
think
most of them were like legal reference changes and things like that. I mean, there were some that had wording changes and things like that too, but I don't recall any that were,
Nothing, there was no major shift in anything. A lot of it was wordsmithing.
yeah.
And then, as Stephen said, adding the new legal reference and statute numbers to them. Majority of them were that. I mean, we went through all these and looked at all the changes in an hour,
Yeah.
so maybe. So it was pretty quick. Like I said, most of them were just,
Because the
Grammatical
legal
stuff.
reference changes they are what they are.
And
Nothing to argue with
process
there.
question then. So this happens, those legal reference changes happen because of that subscription service what is
Well,
the name of
they
that?
provide the updates to us. They basically monitor and apply all the changes that the state makes as far as legal references, or if laws change, they'll change the policies that they provide, and then we'll get those updates from them. So they collect the information from the state and then distill it for all their members, basically.
One of the main arguments I would make for us to, for any district to buy into the service is that the legal people have looked at it before it comes to us. And we don't want to have, every district, 800 districts having a lawyer looking over each one of these for their district. Come on, you know.
Sounds like fun, though.
Yeah. But I do have a comment. I got in this business in the late 60s, after getting out of the Navy. And after reading down through all of the things that are involved in running a school today, and what I did in Iowa City, Iowa in about 1968 or 69, it's unbelievable. I don't even see how we even operate when you get right down to it. Because there are so many things that you've got to do or be cognizant of, or have somebody in charge of, or whatever, so.
I don't know, I wasn't even
It
around
is
then, so.
complicated.
Using what Jim just said.
No.
I said I wasn't even around in 68, so.
Neither was
Actually, yeah. I guess that was because I was defending your folks.
All right.
Good for you.
Maybe that's why.
Somebody had to.
Yeah, somebody had to. They still ended up with me. Didn't do so good.
Topics for future agenda items?
Well, we've got Durham Transportation, the resolution for kindergarten. We will bring that one action item for the approval of the position change back. What else do we have to put on here?
Cleaning service,
Cleaning service?
contract is up for the cleaning service.
Okay.
How's it going?
Oh, this
You
has
have not
been the
heard
best
of
year
Peep?
ever.
Okay, good.
I've not heard a peep.
It's so exciting when we don't hear it.
What about the subgroup analysis within schools? Did we want to put that, you mentioned putting it on the agenda, but it wasn't on here.
Subgroup.
Subgroup, how students, so we get the subgroup analysis of how students are performing
Mhm.
on achievement tests at the district level, but not at the building level. I think the principals are naturally doing that to understand disparities within their own school. But it would be nice to just see that as a board. And because it requires work, we would need to have that on the agenda.
Paul, do you think we could have, I don't know that we have all the,
I'm not sure that we.
have the data.
from each
Okay,
of the
let me
schools.
look into it and I'll
Okay,
get back to
yeah.
you, okay?
Sounds
I'm
good.
just writing it down here so that we can
I just
check.
didn't want to lose sight of it.
No,
Thank you.
that's, okay. Anything else?
Anything else?
For future?
Mhm.
Are there any public comments?
The sheet's still empty.
Going once?
I just have something to add that I forgot about at the
Oh.
board end level. So the,
Just has a question. Yeah, can we ask, can we just write a nice ask
Sure.
questions? Or
Okay, that's fine.
do I need to physically come up with anything?
Yeah, grab a mic, we want to hear
Just so
you.
we have the information to contact you with.
I'll be official.
And we may not be able to provide an answer now, but we'll contact you with whatever information we have.
Thank you.
So I guess just in general, super helpful listening regarding the kindergarten conversation. I would like to know, just are we going to have any decisions by end of February? I mean, around anything as it relates to registration? Or what are we going to be communicating to parents? So that when they are registering, they know we are looking further into this, what the status is.
We're preparing a statement for registrations, for kindergarten registration, so, and to explain it to them. They will probably be asked if they want a full day, and since we haven't made that decision yet, to go ahead and do the deposit for the full day, and then that would be given back to them, refunded, if we were to go forward.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Stretching.
is that helpful?
Yeah, no, it's helpful. I think it's just obviously we've got the orientation at the end of the month.
Right.
So we're all very interested.
I know, and we're
looking to-
trying hard. The state just isn't
Yeah.
cooperating with us. We
The
wanted to
timing
have,
is not
yeah.
especially great, but yeah.
Right.
That's the bad thing with the state. The timing's generally off. You know, if we have, the sooner we get information from them, the sooner we can get information to the parents and to the
Right.
community. But it's kind of a we'll dispense information as we get it.
They first told us we were going to see new monies in November,
Yeah.
then December,
Yeah.
then January, and now we're all the way back to June already. So for what they've told us, they promised they would start dispersing. They're still 9 months behind.
So a decision may not be made until June?
No, we'll make the decision. We have to make the
Well, yeah,
decision
we'll have
before
to
then.
pick one way or the
For
other prior to
parents.
that.
So,
Yeah.
so you would make a decision prior to potentially knowing if the state funds would come. So you make a
Yes.
decision, yes or no.
Yes.
Either way, potentially taking that
I'm
chance.
saying yes, they have to vote, but yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, well, I think it's just kind of as a general comment, I think being a part of this conversation and hearing everyone, it sounds like at least the board is pretty aligned, hopefully, on moving towards a direction. And I mean, I've got my third kid coming in this next year my last kid coming in for kindergarten. I paid for the other two. So really, I don't think it's really about if, I really do think it's about when we go, free. And I just really do, hope that the when is this next school year. So that's really just all I wanted to add. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
There was just one other thing. She said, I didn't know this, there's a lottery for Woodview to get in.
Am I going to know by April or whatever it is when I get my letter to say if I even get into full day kindergarten? But am I going to know by then if it's paid for or not?
Are you going to know by then if we have all-day kindergarten?
Yeah, for everyone.
I can't, I doubt it.
Unless the state suddenly decides to fund the.
Speed up the process.
To speed up the process and provide the funding. We
There's
will
a
not know
lottery at
before
Woodview?
then.
Is there a lottery everywhere?
Yeah,
Yes, there's always a lottery, yeah.
yeah. And it causes a lot of stress for
Yeah, for
working
us-
parents and people
Well,
who have to
No, I understand.
hope we get in.
And it causes stress for everybody across the district too. And then, but this whole endeavor depends on the state providing the funding. And the timing of when they provide the funding will determine whether or not we can do it for next school year. So the sooner they make that happen, the sooner we can make our decision to do it. But even if we get to a point even where we make a decision and we haven't gotten the funding yet, we decide not to do it, and then the state gives us the funding in October or November, well, we'll have to do it the year after next is what will end up happening. So it depends entirely upon when we get that funding, or if we get that funding.
We're trying.
Yeah, we are trying. Yeah.
And that funding it's a bureaucratic distinction, not a political one. In other words, there's nothing really that we can do, right?
No, right, yeah, it's just a,
It's a matter of them speeding up the process of getting everybody to put their attendance records in, put their attendance numbers in, so that then they can work on dispersing the dollars per capita.
Right.
And
It's
so
an
on.
ISB thing, or is it?
No, some of it is a school district problem. Some
Yeah.
school districts have not reported their attendance to ISB or to the state, so that then they have the overall numbers of where, then, okay, we have X amount of dollars in this category, we split it up by, we slice that pie up for children, and we have X amount of money in this category, and we slice it up for these children. There's school districts that have not reported their attendance records to the state, and that's part of the problem. And some of it has to do with special education, English language learners, and having all those broken out as well as the overall numbers. So it's a little more complicated than it really sounds.
And I would imagine when they're talking about some districts, I would imagine that Chicago probably is one of those districts because they have a lot of individuals to look at, and they don't want to shortchange themselves. So.
Well, I know they reported their ISB data. I'm looking for blanks in I am looking at all the ISB data right now. I'm like, wait a minute, I have that open on my desktop. And I'm
It's
gonna
all
look.
enrollment data? Or is this something that
it's
is be sent out that
attendance.
says?
It's attendance, and then it's attendance. They new this year is attendance by subgroup.
There was an attendance email that went out back in, when did that email go back out? It was probably around November, and it was asking if anybody needed to make an amendment to the attendance, because what they did is they populated it for you and said, this is what your attendance is, now you need to go in and check and make sure.
Okay. That makes sense.
that-
So they reported.
They
but might
reported.
not
We all
actually be
reported,
accurate.
but right.
Okay. Got it.
But what Chris had said before with the first year, is there a possibility that you would vote to take a leap of faith that you're going to get the funds? Or
Well,
is it?
that's what the resolution we were talking about earlier was for, that we have to approve by April 1st. So even if we approve that resolution, we still have an option to not implement full-day kindergarten next year if the state does not come through with the funding. Which is, right, which is what, we'll be voting on that resolution at the next meeting, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
So whether or not we approve that, it still depends on the state providing the money.
We'll work on a timeline
Yeah.
that the board, we'll bring back to the board for you to approve or not approve, so that we can have so parents will know.
Yeah.
So, I think my daughter was in the first all-day kindergarten group, so I didn't realize there was a lottery. Because there wasn't at that time. So how many people apply and then get turned away? I'm just curious.
They are always offered to go to a different school for kindergarten.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, good to know.
But as far as being organized, the curriculum-wise, materials or whatever, as I understand it, we could make the decision, May 10th or whatever, and we'd be okay as far as being organized. So it's a situation, as I understand it, that if we decide we're going to do it, and I think we would, we can rescind that if we don't have the money. But if we don't ask for it or approve it and go past a certain date, we can't come in the back door.
Right.
So that's why I would bet that we're all gonna vote for it when it comes up, keeping in mind that if they pull the financial rug up from under us, we'll have to go back down.
And sorry, in the communication with the parents, that would be transparent.
I'll do my best to make sure that it's transparent.
I have one more thing. So last month or so, I sent an email to Representative Yingling and Senator Bush regarding the school funding and the proposed property tax freezes that were on the agendas. Mostly the email centered around them getting enough votes to do the override on the education part. Fortunately, they have overridden that veto, the mandatory veto, so that's going forward. We have a meeting with Representative Yingling on the 21st of this month, another week or so. So we'll remember to bring up those topics about the funding and trying to get it out as early as possible, because the best way for us to try and get change is to hit our representatives and our senators up here, who then go downstate and vote and try and push that along. So we'll make sure that we bring that up with Representative Yingling again. So, you know, we are reaching out to our local politicians that work downstate. So we're doing the best we can here to try and have that outreach down to the state.
And I would encourage you to contact them as well, if you're so inclined.
Well, I guess that's another question too, is there anything parents can do to help in participating in making this?
Contact your state legislators.
That's the biggest
Charter a
thing.
bus to Springfield, let's go.
Yeah.
I may do that.
If there's nothing else, then if I could have a motion to enter into closed session.
Sure. Could I just have a couple minutes to talk about these notebooks, what's in them, et cetera? I just want to let people, the people who aren't on the subcommittee, all of you will notice you have a notebook in front of you that you didn't have a week ago or 24 hours ago. Three of us are on a subcommittee that are looking at the evaluation of the superintendent or a superintendent and the goals of the superintendent and whatever. And but I just felt it might be a good idea just to make sure everybody at this stage, now that we're sort of coming to the closure on this, the end of it all, for a long-term process here. Everything that the superintendent has sent to us about the goals, how they'd be evaluated, and how her operations during the year, the day, relations with the people in the district, everything in the superintendent will be evaluated on. Where we are right now is in this notebook. So now all 7 of us have a copy of it, where we are right now. I would anticipate it would not change a lot from here on in. And the beauty of this is that as we change superintendents down the road, as far as goals and long-term planning is concerned, it isn't changing. We don't have to change everything because of a new person. We've got certain goals the board has for 2 or 3 years down the road on programs, and that stays the same, and the superintendents keep working on it and reporting back to us, which includes such things as the electricity situation with the solar, a full-day kindergarten, and those are things we've been talking about for several years. So anyway, I would ask that in all of us, the 3 of us, Stephen and Kathleen and myself, it's nice reading, sit down and wade through it. It's organized in 4 different parts. The blue piece of paper is the part that splits things apart. It's pretty well done, I think. And feel free to write in it and give us input, and we'll get this wrapped up.
Yeah, I would expect that we would have a meeting, a closed session meeting for evaluation in March.
Yep.
That's
Okay.
my current plan. I doubt we'll be ready.
No, because we want you to make sure you all take a look at that and if there's anything you want changed.
And I'm pleased to report that everybody has a different color notebook. And if you got here early, you could, like, you picked the Northwestern color. And if you got here late, well.
My daughter likes pink.
Tom, it's
Okay.
been a long time since you had young kids, because I came in and I was jealous of his purple color, and we almost had a fight. So you gotta give everyone the same color. Next time, maybe.
Now, if I could have a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to the sections of the Open Meetings Act listed in the agenda.
I'll move. Second.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Mesco,
Aye.
Mack, Strack,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.